Well, I can look at you, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Okay.
Please. Hey,
We're rolling, yes, okay.
Happy New Year.
No, not yet.
Oh, it will be by the time this runs. This will be
Oh.
coming out in
Oh,
January.
okay.
And so that's how we roll here at the Offbeat Business Show. You can tell I need to nudge you in a little bit, I'll get some.
Yeah, okay, I'll get it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, if we're set,
Mm-hmm.
let's saddle this horse.
Alrighty then. Well, hello there. This is Susan Hamilton, and you're listening to the Offbeat Business Show in 2016. I'm so excited about January and everything that means for us. Friends, I respect you so much, and I'm really grateful that you tune in for your valuable lunch hour and share it with us. We always try to share the very best, respecting the 80% of American small business that are family-owned businesses of 9 employees or less. That means that we are building our businesses while we raise our families. We are probably taking care of our parents. We probably have a veteran in our midst that's either really up in our game because they bring their skill and their discipline to the workplace, or possibly they're struggling with reintegration. And more, friends, we are seeing addictions in our families and in our workplace that we're being exposed to. So the things that we bring to you are redefining what B2B is, and we are really taking over the phrase B4B, because business owners do business with other business owners, and we take the expertise that we bring to the table and share. And if we will open our eyes and our minds, we are networking in ways that through audio and video and digital magazine platforms that have not been done before. So today I'm going to introduce you to Lisa Zahn.
Hello.
Lisa is our Offbeat Business Show and Magazine sponsor, and she is also a family law attorney. And we've had some of the most amazing conversations. Lisa, I just appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Friends, we're talking about this because one of the things that we realized early on in our conversations was how, if we are indeed family-owned businesses of 9 employees or less, there are some stressful things involved in running a business.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. And what are the numbers these days, Lisa? Do you know anything relatively current about the state of marriage today in the United States of America? Are we tending to stay married, or most people have gone through some divorces? What are the numbers today? Do you know?
The most recent statistics I know of are from a couple of years ago, and the divorce rate is at about 50% for first marriages. It goes up to end of the 60s, early 70% for second marriages, and almost 80% for third marriages.
Wow.
So
wow.
I don't know who's staying together. Somebody is on the other side of that 50%.
Well, that means that most of you listening are experiencing a combined family.
Yes, so many families are combined. So many.
In my life, that mattered so much. So
Yes.
in my life, growing the business while you're combining the family is a challenge.
Yes,
And
it certainly is.
Oh, Lisa, I'm so grateful. I've got 19 years with my wonderful husband, and we'll be celebrating our 20th this year. And I'm very, very excited about that. But we're not, neither one of us were first marriages. We came into this thing having already been married, and we came in with children.
Yes, my mother and my father, he adopted me when I was 28. They married and put 7 children together.
Oh, wow.
I was 22 when they married, but the rest were teenagers, so they had like 5 teenagers driving at the same time. I don't know how they did it, but they're still married now. It's been 35 years maybe.
Oh, that's a good story.
Yeah.
So it can happen.
It can happen.
And people can treat each other well.
Absolutely, they can.
But a lot of treating each other well during that next phase of our life has a lot to do with how we end phase 1.
Right, it does. More than that, when there are children and a couple divorces, those children are affected for the rest of their lives by the way their parents behave. And it's so important for the parents to conduct themselves in a way that protects their children. Because if they're not protected, the harm goes on forever. And I see that frequently.
So what age groups do you think are probably more susceptible to the pain of all the nastiness? And I think you friends, I don't need to probably spell that out for you, but when we're talking nasty, we're finger pointing, we're disparaging. A lot of people don't understand what disparagement means, and it's a horrible, horrible thing.
Kidnapping the children.
Yeah.
hurting the children, punishing them if they talk about the other parent.
Mm.
Age range, I believe, I'm not a psychologist, but
Right.
in my world, I think the harm starts the most when children become verbal and they're attached to one parent and that parent's gone. That's when it starts, and it goes on for the rest of their lives.
So, if a parent realizes that they've walked away from a situation like this, and for one reason or another, that sometimes those big burdens can get really heavy, and they can feel like the door is 1,000,000 pounds too big to ever open up and walk through.
Yeah.
Now, you and I are sisters of faith, so we don't sit back and think that there's no next step. We believe we can always take a next step. But so many people feel very trapped with the choices that they've made in their past, and they don't feel like they can get beyond it.
They do feel that way, men and women, and it takes people many, many months, sometimes years, to place a call to me. That's a scary thing, to take the first step and place the call. But there are things that people can do to put their house in order, to protect themselves and their family and the children and their assets if they get to the point of divorce.
That's interesting. As we continue, we're going to talk more about those assets, because business owners, you may not realize how this impacts you in business, and we are going to go there. But right now, we're just kind of starting out talking about the kids and about how we need to be treating each other as parents going forward. If we are in a separated situation, we're not together, and we've got the kids, we are starting off the new year, and we're all saying, I'm going to do it better this year, aren't we?
Absolutely.
We're all saying, whatever I screwed up last year, this year I can come at it and do it better.
And I have never seen a parent who wants to hurt their children.
Right,
Parents don't want that. What I have seen is parents who unwittingly hurt their children by the things they say, by the things they don't say, by their body language. For example, a parent who says, oh, I'm going to be so lonely when you go to Dad's this weekend. I just wish you could stay here. That poor kid's going to feel caught in the middle and guilty about going to Dad's, and have divided loyalties and feel that it's not okay to go be with Dad, even if he wants to spend time with his dad. Some parents, if a mom is having a birthday, and the only way a 7-year-old child could get Mom a birthday present is if Dad takes that child, Dad will say, no way, I'm not taking you to gift for her, that
Oh, wow.
so-and-so. That makes children, that breaks their little hearts. So in my opinion, parents need to put the children first, which is a trite phrase these days, but it means putting your personal feelings aside and let your children have the best of you apart than the worst of you together. You don't have to give your ex-spouse accolades, but you can say, well, yes, your mom has beautiful hair. That doesn't take anything away from you, but it gives your child something to take pride in, because he's part of both of you. He needs to feel free to love you both.
I think that's so important, Lisa. Thank you for talking about that, because in our family, combining the families, I came into it with 3 boys, and my husband came into it with 2 girls. And the mom had disappeared, and it was very sad for the girls to always want them in their life. But we had to constantly make sure they knew they had the right to love Mom. And we always told them, even if she walked up to the door and knocked on the door today, even though she has no rights here, you're going to speak nicely to her. Don't leave with her, but
right.
Speak nicely and understand that everybody comes to a point one day when they wake up and go, I wish I wouldn't have done that. And when that day comes, you want your heart ready for that.
Absolutely. You sure do. I've seen parents schedule a recital for a child, and the other parent, and not notify the other parent. The other parent finds out, shows up, and then that parent who scheduled takes the child and leaves, not letting her finish her recital or participate in the activity. Parents often argue at the kids' practices for soccer or t-ball or things like that. The kids don't need that. The parents have to communicate with each other outside the presence of the children and not tell them what's going on. It's not the kid's fault.
It's really too much for a child to have to deal with. We need to be supporting them, not them supporting us.
Yes.
Absolutely. Lisa, are there legal remedies and things that can be put in place beforehand, besides probably a counselor if it's a hostile relationship? But are there some things that, and some precautions that parents can take to hold the other, I don't know if the word's right to say hold the other family accountable. You really can't do that, that I could see. But are there any protections in place, short of saying, hey, you're going to lose your rights if you continue this?
Before a divorce, you mean?
Well, before it gets to a hostile spot where you start seeing those things happening, what can be done about that? Is there anything that can be done about those types of things?
There's nothing that the court can do
Okay.
unless a party files suit. And that in a divorce, for a married couple, that means filing for divorce, because the court's not going to have jurisdiction over a couple or their children unless one party files for divorce.
But I'm talking if they are already in a divorce situation and they start seeing these happening. Maybe something's just come out of the blue. Maybe the other ex has now started dating again and there's some issues there. Anything that we can be looking out for and making good choices about?
Well, counseling for the children is always great if there's any kind of tension on the child, or the child are put in a rough situation repeatedly. If your child is stressed because of your relationship, then counseling is a great thing to do. And there are so many talented counselors out there. The court can't put a restraining order in place or a protective order unless there are some big things going on. So if the parents are but if what they're doing is disparaging each other in front of the child or putting the child in the middle of a situation, another thing that can be put in place is a parenting coordinator, a parenting facilitator.
Interesting. I've never heard of this.
Oh, well, that's a mental health professional who will meet with the parents together and do his or her best to get them to co-parent instead of being at odds with each other.
Oh,
And
wow!
teach
What
them
a
to co-parent.
nice solution there. Because really, it comes down to communication. If the heart's in the right place.
Yes, it does. And the difference between the two, that it's the same job, but a facilitator will have the legal right to come testify in court about everything that happened in the sessions. A coordinator cannot do that. It's completely confidential.
Now, with your vast experience in collaborative law, where people come to the table and talk about these things, do you have those resources available to your clients?
In a collaborative, yes, the resources are available, but in a collaborative law setting, that's not something that normally happens because there's a mental health professional acting as the coach for the parties on the team. So that person is in place from the first meeting.
Okay.
That person will be meeting with the parties, teaching them to co-parent, helping them reach an agreement that's best for the children.
That's wonderful. Lisa, thank you, and we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about this. Friends, are you enjoying this conversation as much as I am? If you're not going through this particular situation in your family, odds are very good that you know someone who is. And if you can be a voice of reason and a voice of peace, it's really going to help you. If you're trying to build a business and you're going through these things yourself, it's very hard to focus on the things you need to be focusing on. And when we get back, I'm going to talk to Lisa a little bit more about the business angle of this and have her describe to you this collaborative law idea, which is relatively new for me. I hadn't heard about that until this last year, and it's quite interesting. So thank you so much, and don't go away. We're just going to take a little break and let you know about some of our other sponsors. This is Susan Hamilton. You're listening to the Offbeat Business Show with Lisa Zahn.
Sounding good. Part two. As soon as you drink water.
Yeah.
Don't forget we got mints.
Thank you. Yes, I'll be all sugared up by the time I'm 2 interviews in.
Well, you didn't bring pizza or donuts. So.
I know, he always tells me, I'll have you, big pizza. Okay.
I'll even take some hummus.
Mm.
All right, ready.
Okay.
Hummus, pizza, or donuts. That's a combo.
Isn't it? He's an interesting fellow. Hey friends, we're back. This is Susan Hamilton, and you're listening to the Offbeat Business Show. Thank you for sharing your valuable lunch hour with us during these 20 minutes of the Offbeat Business Show. I'm talking with Lisa Zahn today, This show is airing in January, when it's so important to make sure we start the year on the right foot. And a lot of times we may be coming off of a troubling holiday season if we've had some divorce in our families, or if we're not getting along, or if we are starting to wonder if there's any resolution, or if it's just time to dissolve this marriage because it's becoming a very painful or dangerous or damaging thing. So we've been talking earlier about what the effects of the children are, and some remedies and some ways that you might be able to navigate these channels a little easier. But now, Lisa, let's talk a little bit about collaborative law and help our audience understand that, because that's a relatively new phrase for me, so maybe it is for them as well.
Collaborative law has been around at least 15 years.
Oh, wow.
It might be longer than that. But in a collaborative law situation, parties have to agree that they're going to opt into the collaborative process, sign an agreement, and they'll each have an attorney. They'll come to a series of meetings that are entirely confidential, and the two parties with their two attorneys will also be accompanied by a communications coach who is a mental health professional. That person is someone who has usually sat in many collaborative meetings before and is experienced in helping the parties talk to each other in a way that the other can hear, and helping them to reach an agreement on issues regarding their children. So in that way, they don't really need a parent coordinator or parent facilitator at that time. Part of the agreement might be to employ one in the future if it's needed. Also in the collaborative process, if the parties have a significant estate, we'd usually have a financial professional on the team. And that person would meet with the parties offline, meaning outside of this meeting,
Okay.
the four-way meeting, and he or she would work with the couple, help them to understand what the estate consists of, and come up with options for them to divide the community estate. That means the assets and the debt. The only drawback of collaborative law, in which you never go to court, is that if one party decides they don't want a part of it anymore, it's not working for them, moving too slowly, moving too quickly, or whatever the problem may be, that party can opt out. At that point, it's over, and both parties have to hire new attorneys and start over again.
Oh, wow.
So if one party decides to do that and isn't invested in the process, it's a very expensive exercise to have gone through the collaborative process.
But the upside is what?
The upside is that it's confidential, and especially if you have children, the parties are going to be communicating with each other, working out a plan together for the children, which is far better than the court, who doesn't know these people, making a decision that really may not be the best thing. Because when people walk into a courtroom, the judges do the best that they can according to the law, but they don't know people's children, they don't know the people, they don't know what's going to be best for anybody. They have to just go by what the black and white of the law is and make the best decision they can.
And this gives them an option. So you go through a collaborative law process, paperwork is drawn up that you've both agreed to, and a judge takes a look at that. And is he obligated to take those terms, or does he have a higher authority to alter them or change them or not approve them? Or
No.
how does that go at that point?
Once a couple has made an agreement, a collaborative law agreement is signed and it's filed, and the party will then sign a decree of divorce. That's what the judge signs, and the divorce is finalized. It's the same thing if the party goes to mediation, which can occur in a collaborative process or outside of it. That document's called a mediated settlement agreement. In either case, a decree is drawn up from the agreements reached in collaborative law or at mediation, and the judge signs the decree. A judge does not have the authority to alter a party's agreement, period.
Okay, wonderful.
Can't be done.
Well, I think that's just really enlightening, and I'm grateful that you shared a little bit about that, because we don't understand what our options are. We don't. I saw my sister go online to get her own standard orders when she found out she could do that. And guess what? There are several sets of standard orders, but one
Yeah.
person says the standard, it may not be standard.
Right.
So it's very helpful to really talk with an experienced attorney in family law issues, and I would not recommend anybody navigate this by themselves. That's just a big stretch, especially if you run a business.
Yeah. If people don't have anything, if they're living in an apartment and they have plates and forks and knives, and that's literally all they have, I think it's okay to do the do-it-yourself divorce.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be, there won't be a danger of getting into trouble later. If a couple or one of the parties has started a business, that is a different story. The business may need to be valued during the divorce in order to figure out what it's really worth. So one party who wants to keep it can buy out the other party who wants to be compensated. And that is a whole different deal. I do think people need an attorney to go through that kind of process.
So what are some of the risks and some of the distractions by doing, if we do it wrong, we can't focus on our clients and our customers because there's all these other things vying for our attention. Show us an example of some of the things that can go wrong and that can really destroy just putting your head in the game.
You mean if a person tries to do the divorce themselves?
Yeah, if they haven't got the most credible advice, and that's possible. There is possible to come to the table unprepared, even with representation, if it hasn't
Yes.
been researched well.
Yes.
We see it all the time. So what are some things a business owner should really think about that can come into play that maybe they're not considering?
Well, having the books in order, in really good shape, having them current, and keeping on top of the expenses, keeping really good records. Going through a divorce, it would be great. No one does this, but it would be great if a business owner had records kept in a manner that would be good for the IRS to review. So I mean really good records. That's always helpful. When a couple divorces and one party who's been in control of most of the assets and in control of the business is divorcing, the other party doesn't really have the knowledge and feels powerless to find out what's really there. The best thing they can do is the person, I'll call it the husband, let's say the husband owns the business, the very best thing he can do to minimize the attorney's fees and minimize the anguish that they're both going to go through in the divorce is just show the records. Publish the information to the other side. Don't try to hide things because you're afraid of what may be found out. Another attorney is going to find out eventually, and everything's going to come out, and it's going to cost a lot more in attorney's fees, and the emotional cost is going to be higher. So the best thing a business owner can do is just be transparent.
And so you're talking about finances, but there's also customer base. There's also the branding. There's also all types of things that they were really working closely together, and now they separate and they both want to go into the same business. There could be a struggle there as well. What could we look out for?
Well, there could be a big struggle there, and if they don't want to continue in business together, some parties do. They divorce and they continue to row the same boat together, which is wise. That's all that they have to work on is this one business. But if they don't want to continue working together, there must be some kind of non-compete agreement signed so that one party is not stealing the other party's customers. So something like that, a confidentiality agreement, that needs to be considered and put into place if there's some fear that they're going to be competing against each other.
And then I've got one other question for you, Lisa, that comes to my mind about hostility. If one partner decides to be harassing, if one person comes into this and doesn't want to play nice and they end up being in a harassing situation, what is harassment in this circumstance? When is it enough? When do I start saying, you know what? I think that behavior is illegal. You're calling me all the time, blah blah blah. I mean, what do you see?
In a In what context? If it's two people who
Mhm.
are divorcing,
Right.
working together?
Right, or separating the business. They're going through all of that. Maybe there's some issues with the children, and it just spills over into business.
Well, if one party is, harassment isn't quite enough for the court to do anything with.
Okay.
If harassment means texting your spouse 100 times a day, calling him 100 times a day, calling clients, saying things about your spouse, that kind of thing, then the attorney can go to the courthouse and ask for an injunction to stop the other party from doing those things. If there's going to be harm to the community estate by one person's actions, the court's going to pay attention to that.
Okay, so that's more than just harm to the person or harm to the children. That's
It's
harm to the community estate. Interesting phrase.
Right. Many people get so angry with their spouses, they say they haven't paid taxes in their business, and I'm going to call the IRS, and they report them. And what winds up happening is the IRS is very interested in both of them. So a big tax issue is created, and they both have a problem they didn't have before. So I heard a judge say this once, and it's really true. I found it to be true, and I mentioned it a minute ago. When people divorce, especially if they have children, if there is a business, they're going to be rowing the same boat. And if they try to row in different directions, they're going to not go anywhere.
Wow.
Better if they row in the same direction.
That's really, really good advice. Friends, did you enjoy this? I hope you did. I hope that you reach out to Lisa and refer her. Of course, if you've got somebody in your circle of influence that's going through some struggles like that, or if you've got some questions yourself. Because one thing that I truly enjoy, and I think that you saw and heard through this interview, is how easy it is to work with Lisa, to ask her anything and know that she will be very candid with you about what you need to know and what you need to consider. Lisa, how many years do you have experience in this?
22 years.
Yeah,
now.
that's awesome. You don't want somebody who just started this 2 years ago.
I'm much better now than I was
You have to start
21
somewhere.
years ago. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, no doubt. Lisa, how can anyone here in the DFW area reach you, and what areas do you particularly serve?
I practice in Collin County, Denton County, and Dallas County.
Wonderful.
And I am happy to talk to anyone who calls me. I don't charge for a phone call, just an initial call to find out and discuss, see if there's a case at
Do
all.
they get right to you? Can they talk to you?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Oh, that's nice. That's
Yes.
nice.
So I like to talk to people when they call, even before they make an appointment, just to see if I can help them and if it's going to be a good fit. Then I schedule an appointment. I charge $100 for the initial consultation,
That's very fair.
and then after that, when I hear the facts of the case, I determine what the retainer will be, and we discuss my hourly rate and take it from there.
Wonderful. And friends, you know that you can find Lisa's ad in the Offbeat Business magazine, and you will also hear her radio ad throughout Pegasus Net Waves. So tell us your contact information.
I'm at 214-387-9056.
Wonderful. And your website?
It's hqattorneys.com.
That's nice and easy, friends, hqattorneys.com. Friends, we are representing the 80% of American small business that are family-owned businesses of 9 employees or less. It means we're building our businesses while we're raising our children, taking care of our parents. That's not easy. Sometimes we got some stuff, and we want to make sure that we are your go-to resource, that you can get information as simple as this or as complicated as this. We talk about it all. If it matters to you, it matters to us. Remember, you can find our lineup, our replays, our magazine, and sponsor information at offbeatbusiness.com. Till next time, thank you so much. You've been listening to Susan Hamilton on the Offbeat Business Show.
Muy
That
good.
was easy.
Muy good. Yeah, we're quick and painless here.